Story 1. Costco has a fairly relaxed return policy, so 99% of the time customers bring things in to return or exchange. My friend says it's no questions asked. However, if on the computer system he notices in someone's transaction history that they're abusing the system, he'll deny the return and offer a clear explanation as to why. Honestly, most people don't raise a big fuss. The evidence is pretty clear, and they say, "Okay, I didn't know that's how it worked," and go on with their lives. Last week, a customer was getting upset that my friend wasn't going to do a return. Even though there was a long list of transactions that made it obvious this guy was routinely buying things, using them a few times as needed, then returning them. In this case, he had bought a bunch of food and was trying to return the packaging for full refunds. He wasn't backing down. My friend has full authority to cancel a membership, and this comes with a refund most of the time. So he tells the guy, "Sir, it doesn't seem like you're happy with our products and services. I'm going to go ahead and cancel your membership and give you a full refund of the annual fee." The guy, immediately understanding that this means he won't be allowed back in a Costco, sits kind of stunned for a few seconds, then gets really panicky, saying, No, I'm good. Please don't do that." My friend isn't backing down, so the guy asks to speak to a manager. My friend plays the whole, "I am the manager of this department" card, so the guy escalates. The assistant warehouse manager comes over, looks at the transaction history, and immediately sides with my friend, saying virtually the same thing but in a super sing-songy, "We're so sorry you haven't been happy with the products we sell," and backs my friend up while he finishes canceling the guy's membership. Story 2. When I was 19 years old and a fresh high school or my country's equivalent graduate, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. The one thing I did know is that I needed money, so I started applying for all kinds of jobs. After a few weeks of writing applications, going to interviews, and waiting nervously for replies, I was hired as a full-time sales assistant at an international company making smartphones, televisions, and other electronic gadgets. Said company was in the process of opening their first official store in my country, and as I was hired about 3 months before they were due to open, helped them however I could. I created one-pagers, basically posters that show all the hardware inside a device plus a picture, translated manuals, put security tags on products, etc. Whatever they wanted me to do, I did, sometimes until late at night, still foolishly thinking that this initiative would maybe be recognized in one shape or another. Alongside me, they hired 4 other people, 3 more sales assistants and a store manager, all of whom were young and ambitious, just like me. The grand opening went very well, business was booming for the first 2 weeks, and everything seemed fine. That's where the problem started. The first thing we realized we didn't have were guidelines on how to handle returns in warranty cases. As the company's electronics had been available online long before the store opened, some people now started bringing in their devices to get them fixed or swapped out, none of which we knew how to handle. This annoyed a lot of customers. Being given the information that only devices bought at our specific store would be handled under warranty only made things worse for us. We were getting abuse on a daily basis that ranged from curse words to death threats. Once we even had to call security because a customer was threatening us. This stress caused one of my colleagues to quit, understandably. This, as it turned out, was only the tip of the iceberg. Some of the other problems we had included having a break room with no access to fresh water, no fridge, no microwave, and of course no bathroom, all big no-nos where I live. Resupply came in sporadically at best. Sometimes we were resupplied twice a week. Sometimes there were no deliveries for 3 weeks, making it very hard for us to tell our customers when their devices would be arriving. The store manager was so incompetent, he couldn't even finish our schedules 3 days in advance. Although giving the schedule 2 weeks in advance is mandatory. One of my colleagues thought, "Forget this," about a month after our grand opening and went on sick leave, which where I live basically gives you immunity from getting fired, so now we were 2 people down. The bosses upstairs apparently wanted us to provide tech support over the phone, which again none of us were trained to do. We did our best, but only really ended up with more threats in addition to having our official store phone number constantly blocked by these calls. Also, we were expected to take over social media communications as well, meaning we now had to answer questions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., putting even more strain on our small team. In the end, the manager couldn't deal with the stress anymore and broke down about 2 months after opening. He even sought psychological counseling after quitting. While I was sad to see him go, I thought that now my time had come to prove myself. I took over most of his duties, still only earning about half of what the manager made. Naively, I worked 60 to 70-hour weeks for almost 3 months straight. Still thinking that this would somehow pay off, I made sure to tell my bosses how much more I did than we agreed upon in my contract, but they didn't seem to care. That is, until our sales figures dropped. All of a sudden, I had 2 of them come into the store unannounced, basically drag me into a back room, and start lecturing me on how badly the store was performing. The conversation went something like this. Boss 1. So, why would you say the store's sales performance has dropped so much since manager left? Me. Well, a lot of customers are unhappy with the way we age. Boss 2. Our products are very competitive. Why are you still struggling to sell them? Me slightly disgruntled. Well, sir, as I was trying to say, the customers are not happy with our service, and running a store with just 2 employees is almost impossible. If we could hire 2 more assistants, maybe we could focus better on our numbers. Boss 1. The interviews for those positions are ongoing. You will have new employees soon. But you were hired for a reason, so would you just do your job? Me. Yes, sir. After that meeting, I felt defeated. Doing all this extra work, staying late, taking responsibility for things I had no business taking responsibility for, the threats, the uncertainty, the stress, the sleep deprivation, all for nothing. And that's when it clicked in my head. Forget those guys. They wanted me to do my job. Fine. From now on, I would do exactly what my job description says. Nothing more, nothing less. The next day, I came in early, opened the store. Everything was normal. Until the first tech support call came in. I picked up the phone and, after listening to what the caller wanted, told them that I was only a sales assistant and therefore not qualified to answer their questions. Hanging up the phone without saying goodbye, a postman came in with some special documents for the store manager, requiring a signature. I said, nope, sorry, not gonna sign that. I'm not a manager. After being informed that these were court documents and needed to be signed for immediately, I just shrugged and said, not my problem, just doing my job here, man. Later that day, after my colleague had arrived, we got a delivery of a new product for the store. The delivery guy handed me the manifest, asking for a signature. Again, I declined, stating that I was just doing my job, and the manager would have to sign that. After making it clear to him there wasn't a manager on site, he left, taking all of the new product with him, a product which we desperately needed. But I was beyond caring at this point. About 15 minutes later, I got a call from Boss 1, asking me why no one had signed for the delivery. I told him that, as there was no manager on site, nobody there was allowed to sign that document. After a few choice words, he hung up the phone, and I went back to work, chatting with customers and generally not caring about anything. Half an hour later, Boss 1 and 2 descended onto me. They rushed into the store demanding an explanation for my behavior. I simply replied, I'm just doing my job, sir, just like you asked me to do. Boss 1. What the heck do you mean? Then why has nobody accepted today's delivery or the documents we've sent you? Me. Well, that's the manager's job. I am not a manager. Boss 2. Yes, you are. What the heck are you talking about? Me. No, not only would my pay be pretty poor for all the work I am doing. My contract clearly states that I am a sales assistant, and as such shall only fulfill duties related to that position. Boss 2. And who the heck is supposed to do the manager's job if not you? Me. I don't know, but I would gladly do it if you doubled my salary, of course. Boss 1. Haha, actually laughing in my face, who do you think you are? We can have you replaced with someone cheaper in a heartbeat. Me. Okay then, go ahead, I quit, effective immediately. Bye. And then I just left. My remaining colleague, upon hearing me quit, also quit immediately, leaving our former bosses wide-eyed with no employees to run their store. I had also taken the liberty of informing the Board of Health and Labor about our working conditions, as well as getting myself legal counseling for some issues related to bonuses not being paid out. The store ended up having to completely shut down for about 2 weeks until they had a skeleton crew back together to run it. The kicker? About a month after I quit, and with my lawsuit for unpaid wages now pending, I got a call from Boss One, telling me he wanted to accept my offer of doubling my salary to become the store manager. He said no one was willing to take the job now that word got around how awful things are in the store. The following conversation ensued. Me. Frankly, Boss One, I used his first name here, just to annoy him. I don't much like getting laughed at, so I'm afraid if you want me to come back, you're gonna have to quadruple my initial pay. Boss One. What? Are you insane? We can't afford that. How are we Me. I don't give a darn, I really don't. But I've got an idea. How about you pull your head out of the other bosses behind and just do your job? Story 3. I work for a company that handles security at venues. The venues range from small gatherings to sporting events. I can't go into specifics, sorry to be that original poster about what I do, just that my partner and I check everything going into the venue. I really enjoy my interaction with the public and take pride in knowing my locations and directions to get to places within and around them. Get to work one morning and start working, checking everything going in. At this location, there were statues that visitors would go around and take pictures at. This morning, I checked everything going in, helping people as they need it. Soon, I get a text from my boss, not on site, call me as soon as possible. Okay, finished my current check and gave him a call. I'll spare you the long call and was told by my boss that I was doing more than what was asked and to just do my job or I'd be asked to leave. To clarify, my boss on the phone was reading an email, and that was the venue boss's words, not his. My boss said to just do what he says, and he will take it up with him later. Okay. Cue malicious compliance. Now venue boss is hovering around me, watching. This is also the time people start to show up for the event. I have a badge that identifies me as a worker there. Sir, how do I get to the bathroom? Me. I'm sorry, sir, you will have to ask venue boss. Points to him. You work here, don't you? Me. Yes, sir. Can't you help? Me. I'm sorry, I have to just do this security thing. Partner and I walk away. This went on for the entire venue. 4 hours of me directing any question to him and only him. So much so that another venue assistant boss came over, laughing he knew what I was doing and apologized to me on his behalf, couldn't do it himself. He was busy. I kept it up the next 2 work days. Story 4. So I work as an integrator working on smart homes and such. We don't really have any government codes other than being so far from gas lines. However, my boss wanted me to break this very code when wiring for a house to cheapen expenses for less wire. Otherwise, we would have had to have pulled wire from one side of the house to the other, then into the basement, rather than just pulling straight down and across. Basically, we would cut material costs down by about 65%. However, I knew it was wrong, told him about the code, but he said it would be fine. Well, as it turns out, I did exactly what he told me to do. But the owner of our company was not pleased. The house failed inspection, we were the main cause, and I got blamed for it. Little did my boss know that I recorded all notes that he gave me and time-stamped them in our official documents, and pictures were included with the notes. Cover your behind, folks. Anyway, my boss got chewed out, and I got to save my job. A little malicious compliance turns into a load of satisfaction, haha. Update. Wow, didn't expect to get so many upvotes, so thanks. Also, to answer some questions, I am in the United States, but I run low voltage wires. The space I could run the wire was about 10 inches in diameter, so enough to get a gas line and wiggle room. Sadly, it was going through a concrete wall, and concrete bits don't go big enough to fit all the wire we had to. And you can't drill through a load-bearing wall, so all I could do was go around it on the other side of the house. But he wanted me to run it through the hole with the gas line. Code in the United States states that anything with electrical current can't be run next to a gas line within 2 feet or so. I try to just avoid it at all costs so as not to have that code come into play. As for my boss, he was a co-owner of the company I work for. but he went through a divorce a number of years ago. Therefore, his business partners convinced him to sell his share to them, but he gets permanent job security. This was to avoid the ex-wife crazy from getting any say or control of the small business. Look, my boss has screwed up so many times on so much, and I've only worked there for a year. And if I were to have screwed up on half the stuff he has, I would have been fired a long time ago. Need a doctor's note for extended absence. Okay, not my story, but a friend of mine from many years ago. Very short. My friend had an extended absence due to the flu. Human Resources told him that he needed a doctor's note for the extended absence. Malicious compliance. My friend, having a doctorate in psychology and the title of doctor in his name, wrote himself a note. Human Resources wouldn't accept this as it wasn't from a medical doctor. However, the employee handbook did not make this distinction. Human Resources was forced to accept the note and change the word doctor to practicing medical physician or something like that. I don't remember the exact wording. At the time, I thought that this was hilarious, even more as time goes on.